Hello, ladies. Sharon Tash, Tash Wellness for Women. And I am very happy to have a dear friend of mine, Marcy Kirshenbaum, without a C.
Thank you. Hi, everyone.
And I met Marcy years ago at a networking group that Amy Landalt, and I just interviewed Amy yesterday, had at her office. And Marcy is a nutritionist that is so knowledgeable. And when I first met Marcy and I heard all her credentials, I'm thinking, oh, she's never going to be able to bring it down to a level where people will understand. Boy, was I wrong. As much education as Marcy has, she can bring it down to a sixth grade level, which is really good for people. So let me do a little introduction of you, Miss Marcy.
Thank you.
Got to put on my cheaters. Marcy Kirshenbaum, without a C, is the owner and founder of Enhanced Nutrition LLC in Northbrook. Marcy works with both individuals and families to help them find balance through diet and nutritive supplementation to assist in addressing health issues. She assesses each person using functional nutrition, yes, those that measure nutrient imbalances, gastrointestinal dysbiosis, food sensitivities, and genetics to identify where the body has short-circuited. Marcy holds a Bachelor of Science in Biology from the University of Illinois, an MBA from the Northwestern Kellogg Graduate School of Management with majors in finance and marketing, and a master's in human nutrition from the University of Bridgeport, summa cum laude. Marcy is a licensed dietitian nutritionist, in addition to being a certified clinical nutritionist and a certified nutrition specialist. She's a board member of the Accreditation Council for Nutrition Professional Education and works to eliminate hunger in the Northbrook community with Hunger Free Northbrook. Thank you so much, Marcy, for being with us.
It's fun to be here talking with you. There's so much to talk about. And we agree, which is always the best.
Absolutely. Well, before I even ask you the first question, the thing that I love about what you do is exactly what I tell my clients. Well, do you think I should take vitamin D? You know what? And I answer them, in this area, it's always good, but don't do it unless you have a blood test first.
Exactly.
Should I take omegas? You know what? It's always good to take omegas, but you know what? Get a blood test first.
Well, and that's so great because the functional testing, even if it's the traditional lab work that people get from their doctors, I look at it differently. I look for, where are you in the range? What does this tell me if you're really, really low? Sometimes it doesn't mean there's anything wrong. It may mean that you're deficient in something simple. Or it gives me a clue like, hey, this is telling me that you're not absorbing so well. And so there's all these little clues. So even getting those tests plus other really cool functional tests that we can do out there it's enlightening to see that.
It is. Well, we could go on a whole tangent on that one subject, but let me ask you a few questions.
Okay.
How do food choices affect the ability to fight infection?
Okay, well, this is especially important with what's going on now because everyone's worried about staying healthy. And we're protecting ourselves with maybe gloves and a mask. We're washing our hands a lot. But what's really important is keeping your inflammation down, keeping your immune system strong. And how do we do that? We do it with lifestyle. And this is not something that's just specific for now. It's really, I guess we're seeing it more now. We're focused on it more now, but it's something we should always be concerned about. It's looking at exercise is a piece, and I always look at this for everybody. Nutrition is a really, really, really important piece, but you can't only do that. So we do need to look at exercise. We do need to look at sleep. We do need to look at our emotional, mental health in terms of dealing with stress. And then there's the nutrition, because what we eat, how we feed ourselves is definitely going to influence how your body responds. If you're giving yourself food that is causing inflammation in the body. Your body doesn't react well. And we all know there's foods that, oh, I can't, it may even be as simple as I can't eat garlic. I don't feel well. And that's telling us something, and it's telling us that our bodies don't do well with that item. And so we want to find the food and the balance that keeps us in a very non-inflammatory, a strong state. So when we do get a virus, which is going to happen, we'll see how, what it is. We hear about the people who really show no symptoms. And there's so many reasons. It's not just nutrition, but a piece that keeps us stronger is how our body's going to respond if we already have a lot of stress in our bodies, and we get a lot of stress from having a poor diet. If we already have that stress, once we get a virus, our body can't respond as well because it's already feeling like it's under attack. It's already inflamed. So we want to support ourselves with our food choices.
And it's interesting because I have learned through all of this journey I've been on, vegetables that are in the ground don't sit well with my body. So,
Right.
Everyone says, oh, you should eat carrots, you should potatoes are awful for me. So knowing that, I make a choice if I'm going to have a carrot to know I'm not going to feel really great afterwards. So I do it mindfully.
And that's what I always tell people, because no one's perfect in their food choices. People indulge at times, and that's fine. We all want that freedom to be able to do that and make those choices. But like you're saying, I know if I eat that, what to expect, and I'm okay with that. And that's the mindfulness of it. And knowing that or some people will say, hey, I could have two carrots, but if I ate 3, that's going to be too much for me. I really won't feel well. And that's where we get into the very personalized nutrition. And a lot of it, people don't always understand what's my body telling me. Sometimes it's not real clear, and it takes a lot of detective work to try to figure out, what does this mean? Why do I get this all the time? And sometimes I don't, not to get into your personal stuff, Sharon, but sometimes like what people's symptoms are, people figure, well, when I eat this, carrots, it doesn't hurt my stomach. So that's fine. But the symptoms from what you eat don't always present in the digestive system. It can present as fatigue, irritability, skin conditions, itchiness. There's just a myriad of things that it can be from the food you're eating. It's not always presenting digestively. And that's one of the aha moments I've had with a lot of my clients. They're like, oh my gosh, we took this out. I stopped eating it, and I don't have the symptom anymore. It was so simple. It's not always that simple,
Yes.
but identifying you as an individual is what's so important, that we can't compare, kind of like, if everyone went on the grapefruit diet, why do some people do great and other people do awful, or even Atkins, all those types of diets, because one size doesn't fit all. Just like, right. I mean,
exercise.
And the same with exercise too. We can't all do those same things. We don't all respond. We're not all strength, or some are better at endurance.
Correct. Absolutely.
And that's part of what we both do, is working with people as individuals.
Right. Absolutely. So what are some of the inflammatory foods that you were just talking about?
Okay, so when we look at, there's the real classic inflammatory foods that many people will show some type of a reaction to. And a lot of those will be like gluten, dairy, sugar. When we know a lot of those, especially sugar, which we can get into a little bit about sugar and cravings and stress and all of that. It can be peanuts, it can be eggs and soy. Those are these things that are classically more inflammatory for people. And a lot of people say, well, I went on an elimination diet, and that's taking those foods out. And then maybe I felt better. Maybe I didn't notice anything. So there's all these pieces that where someone feels better, they slowly start to reintroduce. And some people say, I'm feeling fine now. I'm good. Other people, well, I reintroduced everything at once, and now I'm kind of back to where I was, because it's really hard to make these changes in the society that we live in. But right now, so many people are staying at home, and you have control over the choices that you're making. It doesn't mean we always feel like having that control, but it's trying to experiment, play around with some of these things. This is a great time. I mean, I'll even tell people, someone will say, well, when I eat garlic, I know I really stink. Well, right now you're at home. No one's going to smell you. See what happens with that. Do you feel okay with it? Is it just a smell, that the way your body's metabolizing it? And some of that's genetics, but there's a lot of different things of figuring out what's inflammatory for you. So those are the classics. The biggest one really is sugar.
Yeah.
And that's the one that everybody, almost everybody, we're addicted to it. Mm-hmm. It's become a treat where it's a celebration, you get sugar. You're feeling sad, you get sugar. Whatever it is, there's always, how many times would someone say, let's go out for ice cream because we're celebrating, let's go out for ice cream so I can help you feel better. Right. So it's become something that it's a toxin to us in more ways than weight, and more, it's a neurotoxin. It's dangerous.
It really is.
But it's easy to say that it is, but how do we eliminate that from our diet? That's the challenge. And that's where working with people and understanding their triggers and what foods they're currently eating, and sometimes recombining the way they eat the foods to help them feel more satisfied, really helps people drop their sugar cravings.
Important. Yeah, sugar's that heroin. It is the new heroin.
Oh, 100%. And then you probably have talked to your clients about this, but there's the studies that if they show the mice that are given the choice between cocaine and sugar, they're going to choose sugar, and their brains light up in a scan more than cocaine.
It is amazing. When I did my eliminations, I love bread. Oh, yeah. But bread is so toxic. But I didn't realize why it was so toxic for me. It was the yeast. So I have found I can still have bread, but the only bread that doesn't bother me is the sourdough bread that's made at Whole Foods, because it's not made with yeast. And that doesn't bother me. Now, I don't eat the whole loaf.
Of course.
But, I don't buy the sourdough bread from Panera or, Mariano's. Those, because I always ask, is there yeast in there? Yes. Mm-hmm. So it's knowing how does your body, and I can have a slice of bread, with turkey on it and onions and all of that, and it doesn't bother me. Yeah.
Well, and that's the nuances of figuring out what is it. And if you're sensitive to yeast, you can have sensitivities to some other things. Like and I listen to these clues for my clients. So when someone like you, who's very sophisticated and very in tune to your body, you're picking up on those symptoms, which are signals to you saying, oh, what is this? It's trying to figure out, well, is it really all the bread, or is it what part of it? I had a client who swore she was allergic to salmon. And every time she had salmon, she didn't feel well. Well, what did we do? Figured out, well, every time you made salmon, you prepared it with soy sauce. It was the soy sauce. It wasn't the salmon.
Aha. Yes.
So it's teasing apart those things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I didn't take yeast and put it in my mouth and see if that worked.
No. You figured it out. So,
Absolutely.
Right.
Made it a little easier. Okay, so how can we address cravings during this stressful time?
Okay, so really important there, and everyone looking for those triggers when people are feeling they're not getting the social interactions, whatever it is. Of course, we want to look for ways to make us happy, which we're reading all over the place. Everyone's talking about that. But to address the cravings, and this is where we have to kind of take our emotional thoughts that are, I don't care, I want it now, I feel like it, versus our logical thoughts. What's this doing to me? So trying to have those meet this way instead of going one up here, one down there, and one overrides the other, and it's usually the one that gives into the cravings that wins. There's a few things you can do, and it depends what your craving is. Let's go with sugars, because sugar seems to be, it's either sugars or salty chips, something like that. So it's, first of all, you ask yourself, are you really hungry? Get a drink. Get a drink that, if you're feeling like you want sweet, sometimes I do a kind of like a chai latte that I make for myself with unsweetened almond milk, and I'll put a little bit of stevia in, and I'll do chai tea bags, heat it up. That gives me something. I also find with some of these cravings, we're not satisfied, and we know we're not satisfied emotionally, which is a lot of what cravings are. And so we feed ourselves. Well, if we are satisfied nutritionally, maybe making sure you've gotten maybe some healthy fats, maybe avocado, guacamole, eating guacamole, and instead of eating it with chips, eating it with something crunchy like celery and carrots. Um, if you're really feeling like something salty, they have some of the dried garbanzo beans, little like salted garbanzo beans. You need to keep your hands busy
Right.
when you're thinking of cravings, and that's something oh, I've been making a lot of face masks, sewing, and not everyone has that. I mean, I'm lucky I have a sewing machine and I happen to have fabric. I can do that. It keeps me really busy. So I'm not just sitting being bored. And it's coming up with activities to occupy yourself, checking in with yourself. Am I really hungry, or is it thirst? Am I really hungry, or am I just bored? So it's trying to look for, like, we're looking for triggers all the time, and what feels like a satisfying substitute. Is it going to be a satisfying snack to substitute? And depending on the person, finding out what are the foods that they like, and what did your lunch look like, or what did your dinner look like? A lot of people have trouble, either late afternoon or evening is when we're finding most of the cravings kind of take over, and that's when our brains shut down all logic and we just eat.
Correct.
And working your day, scheduling yourself, or setting up rules for yourself. There's rules like, when I'm sitting in the family room watching TV, that's a no food zone. Food can only be eaten in the kitchen. And you want to try to set some of those up. You want to sometimes, even when people with cravings, they'll say, I don't even think about it. I just automatically walk in the kitchen, open the pantry, and I start eating. Put a note on a cabinet, put a note on the freezer, and remind yourself not to shame yourself or yell at yourself, but to say, what are the steps you need to to ask those questions? Am I thirsty? Can I find something else to do? Do I need to do 10 jumping jacks to kind of get my energy moving again? Or some people, I know some of my clients who have sugar issues, and I'm not talking about sugar cravings, I'm talking about more towards diabetes, but
Mhm.
they keep craving it. It's, what's your motivation for wanting to be healthy? Is it family? Is it, whatever find your motivation, and it needs to be in front of you, because that motivation gets stored away. And if you write it down and you post it where that food is, where those snacks are, it really reminds you of, oh yeah, this is why I didn't want it. And of course, not having it in the house, but that's not always practical. I know right now all my kids are living with us again, and they're adults and they can choose what they want to eat. And so there are more temptations for me, and we have to remind ourselves.
Right. Right. It's mindfulness again. It's in everything. I talk about it all the time. You do. I mean, every professional that I know talks about mindfulness,
Right.
the importance of it.
And it's even eating, if you do choose to indulge in something, and I call them indulgences, not cheats, because
Correct.
anyway. Well, and so if you do choose to do that, enjoy it.
Absolutely.
Be mindful when you eat it. Don't do that, hand to mouth type thing where you're not even thinking about it. You will eat less of it and feel okay, usually better about, you don't feel sick to your stomach from overeating it. You don't have that guilt that tends to go with having made a choice that's not the best for you.
And one of the things I like to tell my ladies too is before, you sit down to eat whatever you're going to eat, think about how it got there. Did it come from a seed? Thank the seed, thank the ground, thank the rain, thank the sun,
Right.
thank the farmers. That there's so many things to be thankful for just even a salad.
Absolutely. And I like that you're saying, how did it get there? Because for the most part, if it came from the earth and you recognize it as coming from the earth, it's better for you.
Yeah.
And that's where we get into what's a whole food. We recognize it. It's not saying, what could this have been? And and right there, you're better off that if you do feel that you're not quite satisfied, didn't quite get enough to eat, choosing those foods are going to still be supportive of your health.
Absolutely. One more question for you. Are supplements important for fighting COVID-19?
That's a really good question, because there's so much out there right now, and it's kind of, you look at store shelves, they're bare of all the vitamin C and the vitamin D and all the immune support. There are a lot of studies that do show that some extra immune support can be helpful. But, and there's always that caveat, kind of back to, do you need it? Because vitamin D is one that has been shown to be important. Our vitamin D level needs to be much higher than what the minimum level is in a standard test. However, if you have no idea where your vitamin D level is, you want to just take more of a basic amount versus really high dosing yourself, because that is toxic. So we have to be careful. I have a lot of immune support in terms of supplements right now, because there are people that do need it. I still prefer diet over supplements, because that's sustainable. There's no magic pills here. There are things that, should you get COVID-19, and it depends how it presents in your body, but if you get the pneumonia, the cough and everything, there are some supplements for the lung support to help your lungs be able to fight. And that's the whole thing with the supplements. There have also been a lot of studies showing high dose vitamin C can be very helpful. Well, high dose vitamin C can cause GI distress.
Can't take it.
Vitamin C can cause, there's a lot of people have different issues, so we can't do an across the board saying, here's the protocol, everyone should be taking it. But at the same time, there are supplements, but it has to be done really knowing what you're doing, or working with someone who knows. So it's not, and the quality of the supplements is so important.
Absolutely. Thank you for saying that.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't choose to go to Walgreens for supplements. And obviously, I, being a professional, I have access to professional grade supplements, and that's what I prefer my clients to use because I know the
Absolutely.
sourcing, I know that they've been tested, the quality's there. But at the same time, if there is something that they can use from a Whole Foods or Vitamin Shop, I'm all for that. But you have to be so careful.
Right. Correct. I'm so glad you said that because I always tell my ladies, if you're buying it over the counter, you don't know if your body is absorbing it or you just have expensive urine.
Or sometimes I'll say to people with a lot of it, I always ask my clients, bring me the supplements you're taking, because if I look at them and I say, hey, this is great, this sounds good, you need it, stay on that. But there's a lot of supplements, especially the multivitamins, that are very low quality. They're all inactive ingredients. Your body has to go through multiple chemical conversions to make them work for you. And genetically, we don't all do that real well. So I mean, there are some vitamins I will tell people I'd rather you take nothing than take this because there's
Wow.
all these other additives in it and all these things that are actually, we talk about inflammation and keeping your immune system strong. They actually stress your immune system.
Yeah, it's scary what's out there, and having people like you, Marcy, that is so you are so educated in this and doing the functional model of finding out what do you need and then taking care of it, finding out the reason somebody, is having problems and then taking care of it. That means a lot to me, and I feel comfortable with you as a nutritionist that I saw a nutritionist probably about 15 years ago, and she says, well, you have to have peanut butter. I said, I don't like peanut butter. Well, how else are you going to get, I forgot what she said. And I said, I don't like peanut butter. She would make no adjustment. That was
Oh,
the only time I saw her.
right. And she wasn't allowing you to be an individual.
Right.
And,
Absolutely.
and that's why, and I always say everything with my clients, I'm going to give you some suggestions, and that's what they are. They are suggestions. And you tell me, how does that sit with you? Because if it doesn't sit well, you're not going to do it. So what's the point?
Right. Right. So tell me, Marcy, how can someone get a hold of you and what is the process that they would go through? We have a couple more minutes. I will have your contact information down below. But if someone wants to see you, what is the process? Do they bring in lab tests? Do you order them? Are they blood tests, urine tests? If you could, give me a little
Sure.
synopsis here.
Sure. Okay. Well, you'll have my contact information and you can call me, you can email me. I do like to talk to people for a little bit before you first come to see me to make sure we're the right fit. Because I certainly wouldn't want to have you come and say, wait, that's not what I wanted. So I like to get a little understanding. What are your goals? What are you looking for? So once someone comes in to see me, I have a fairly lengthy intake form. And that really helps me find the areas that I see might be the big issues. And I ask lots of questions and really want to get to know you because what you're telling me is telling me how you might best implement lifestyle changes. I hear that. What's your living situation? What's your cooking? All those questions. I want to understand your medical history. That's so important. What medications are you taking? What supplements are you taking? What's your food intake look like? No judgment, because what do you hate? What do you love? All of that, because that's what helps me get a picture of you. Bring in your lab work from your doctors, whatever lab work you have. Sometimes I will suggest doing some other tests. It could be a stool test, depending if you have a lot of gut stuff going on. It might be doing a test for nutrient imbalances. It might be looking at a test for food sensitivities, but we don't know. I'm not one of these people that says, you can't see me until you've had this whole bucket of tests done. Then I can see you. Well, how do I know you need those tests?
Good.
they get expensive. And I want to say, where do you get the most bang for your buck if we're going to do testing? I have some people that don't want to do testing, and sometimes we can get really far by making lifestyle changes. It's all so personalized. So, I've been working with a newer genetic test that is really fascinating because it looks at the most important genes that impact your detox, your exercise, even inability to lose weight. And not that we want to blame everything on our genes, but it's how our genes interact with our environment and how our environment interacts with us. How do we
Nice.
how do we do all of this? And sometimes we see, well, this is your sticky point. This is what's been going on, and now we understand it, and we can match that with some of your lab work or some of the symptoms you're having to help you get over that hump. So really my biggest thing that I do is, what are your goals? What is it that you want? And sometimes I have people say, I'm so confused by what I'm reading out there. I don't know what's right, what's wrong. Help me clear this up. And so I meet you where you are, and then we move forward together.
Beautiful. Well, I appreciate everything you've done. I appreciate that you keep getting more education, that you are always reaching out, with new ideas. So thank you. And I will put the contact information down below for people to reach out to you. And I really appreciate that you took your time on this beautiful Friday in Chicago to do this.
Well, and Sharon, I have to thank you. I'm on your email distribution list, so I see all the help that you're giving to people.
Thank you.
And I appreciate that, because we have to work as teams, because we need to improve the health of everybody. And the knowledge you're providing is just fabulous. So
Thank you so much.
thank you. And
Well, it's good to be in your network.
thank you for having me. I really am really happy to do this, because I really do. I want people to feel better.
Yes, absolutely. We both do.
Right. Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcy.
Take care.
I'm gonna